The latest Indonesian horror film of 2024, The Curse of Ghost Dance Village, Origins of Terror, topped the box office with 4,800,000 in earnings as soon as it was released. With its rich folk atmosphere and eerie vibe, it's considered the creepiest movie of the year. Hurry up, friends who love horror, and watch it together. The story begins with Mira's mother suddenly falling ill with a strange disease. Not only is she paralyzed and unable to speak, but her body is covered in red bumps and black blood oozes from her mouth. Even the doctors can't find the cause. The family servant has no choice but to call a shaman for treatment. Indeed, the shaman quickly identifies that Mira's mother is actually cursed. The shaman then points to a cabinet in the house, which surprisingly contains a mysterious wooden box. Inside the box is a beautifully crafted golden bracelet. The shaman tells Mira that this bracelet originally belonged to the protector of Ghost Dance Village. However, her mother stole it, which is why she is being punished. To cure her mother's illness, Mira must personally return the bracelet. But what Mira doesn't know is that the owner of the bracelet is not a protector but a dancing female demon. This demon has been ruling Ghost Dance Village, demanding an annual sacrificial ceremony where 7 girls are chosen to become her servants. 25 years ago, Mira's mother was unfortunately chosen by the demon. But her grandmother, to help her daughter escape this fate, stole the bracelet that held the demon's power with the village shaman. Since then, Ghost Dance Village no longer needed to sacrifice to the demon. However, unfortunately, as Mira's mother was escaping the village, she encountered the demon. Although the demon's power was greatly reduced and she couldn't stop her, she still cast a vicious curse. Such an exciting plot, I must share it with my girlfriend. Are you still watching movies alone? Why not try Tantan, where you can easily meet new friends and locate single beauties in your city? Enough said, I'm off to Tantan to find some cute girls. Unaware of all this, Mira puts on the bracelet to save her mother and heads to Ghost Dance Village with her friends. Upon arriving in the village, they find that, as rumored, every household is full of dance enthusiasts. Surprisingly, the villagers are not unfriendly to outsiders. Mira finds a girl named Lottie in the village and asks her how to return the bracelet to the protector. But Lottie, who is about the same age as Mira, also doesn't know the legend of the demon. She tells Mira that perhaps the village shaman knows the identity of the protector. However, the shaman is currently away and no one knows when he will return. Not wanting to make the trip in vain, Mira decides to stay and wait for the shaman. That night, Mira stays at Lottie's house, while the 3 boys have to stay at the village entrance's guest house. But that night, several strangely dressed people walk to the village entrance, and wherever they go, the lights automatically go out, including the oil lamp inside the guest house. Yuta notices this and keeps shaking the lamp, but it seems to be playing tricks on him, only lighting up a small flame at most. Just then, a ghostly figure slowly approaches. As it is about to pounce on Yuta, the lamp suddenly lights up, and the ghostly figure disappears. Meanwhile, Mira, worried about her mother's illness, can't sleep and gets up to drink water in the living room. At this moment, she hears faint singing coming from Lottie's mother's room. Curious, Mira leans against the door to listen carefully. Unexpectedly, the door opens automatically, and a woman draped in yellow gauze stares at Mira with a meaningful look. The next second, the open door slams shut, and the mysterious woman disappears. At this point, Mira still doesn't know that the woman was the owner of the bracelet. The next morning, Mira is surprised to find that Lottie's mother has also fallen seriously ill, with symptoms identical to her own mother's. So, she tells Lottie about her mother's curse. Upon hearing this, Lottie is scared, but helpless. She can only hope the village shaman returns soon to lift the curse. Shortly after, the kind-hearted Lottie notices that Mira is not used to living in a village full of mosquitoes, so she takes her to the village bathhouse. Mira never expected that this rundown village would have a luxurious pool, but Lottie tells her that the shaman doesn't allow villagers to bathe in the pool. They can only use the shower room next to it. Just as Mira is about to shower, she hears a familiar song behind her. Mira thinks it's Lottie singing, but when she looks through the gap, she sees Lottie standing still. At this moment, Mira doesn't notice a water snake slithering behind her. Feeling the atmosphere is a bit eerie, Mira quickly finishes her shower and plans to leave with Lottie. However, she finds Lottie ignoring the ban and bathing in the pool, even inviting her to join. At this moment, Mira feels like she's under some magical spell, uncontrollably walking into the pool. Then, Lottie sings and approaches Mira from behind. But as she moves to Mira's other side, she suddenly transforms into the demon, whispering in a seductive voice to hand over the bracelet. Mira finally snaps out of it, but when she turns around, the demon is gone. The pool is now filled with water snakes. She is then forcibly dragged underwater by the snakes. Fortunately, the real Lottie arrives in time to save her from the water. The pool returns to its clear state. No trace of the water snakes remains. After hearing that the bracelet's owner wants it back, Lottie decides not to wait for the shaman and takes Mira to the forbidden area in the back mountain. Soon, they see a group of people dancing continuously in the back mountain. This scene puzzles Lottie, as she grew up in the village and didn't know there was a tribe in the back mountain. Before long, the demon dances enchantingly towards them. It turns out these people are the demon's slaves. The demon gracefully extends her long arm towards Mira, hinting for her to hand over the bracelet. Although scared, Mira gathers her courage to ask if returning the bracelet will lift the curse on their mothers. Hearing this, the demon looks displeased. Seeing the slaves about to surround her, Mira obediently hands over the bracelet. The demon is very pleased, saying everything is under her control. From the beginning, she was guiding Mira to Ghost Dance Village. Through the demon's confession, Mira learns that the shaman her family hired was already under the demon's control. Every action she took in the past few days was part of the demon's plan. Even tonight's meeting was orchestrated by the demon. Mira was shocked to hear this and looked at Lottie beside her. She never expected that Lottie would collaborate with the banshee to betray her. It turned out that the singing Mira heard while bathing during the day was real because the banshee was bewitching Lottie, threatening her with her mother's life to bring Mira and the bracelet to her that night. Upon learning this, Mira realized Lottie did it to save her mother. Kind-hearted Mira decided to forgive Lottie. The two girls then left the banshee's lair. However, when they returned home, they found that the banshee had deceived them. Lottie's mother not only didn't get better but was even more seriously ill. Seeing this, Mira couldn't help but worry about her own mother, especially since her mother was the one who personally took the bracelet away. She planned to leave the village overnight to rush home, but due to a heavy rainstorm and her friend's persuasion, Mira decided to stay one more night and leave when the rain stopped the next day. Unexpectedly that night, Mira heard her mother's voice calling her. She immediately jumped out of bed and went to the living room only to be embraced by Lottie's mother. It turned out that the woman in front of her was possessed by Mira's mother. She reminded Mira again not to save her and not to agree to the banshee's terms. Unexpectedly, the next second, Lottie's mother suddenly convulsed and fell backward onto the table with a loud crash, waking everyone in the house. Immediately after, Lottie's mother stood up straight, her demeanor strange and actions eerie, clearly possessed by the banshee. Wong Wong's actions like a lonely old woman. As soon as the banshee's voice faded, Lottie's mother fell to the ground again. Then, as if mad, she desperately tore at her ulcerated skin and soon fainted from the pain. At the same time, an old man dressed in black with a black hat walked in. Lottie immediately looked as if she had seen a savior. It turned out she was the witch who had been missing for several days. The witch told everyone that she had been treating Mira's mother at Mira's house these past few days. Unfortunately, by the time she arrived, Mira's mother was already critically ill, and even she was powerless. Now, the banshee had regained the bracelet, greatly increasing her power, making her even more formidable. The next morning, the villagers discovered that all the livestock in the village had been drained of blood, most of the crops in the fields had withered, and even the water in the pool had dried up, with various water snakes crawling underneath. The witch instinctively looked to the side and indeed found the banshee looking at her smugly. The witch knew very well that this was the banshee demonstrating her power to them. If they didn't choose a girl for sacrifice as she demanded, the village would have no peace. So the witch had to take out a pot of bitter coffee and perform a ritual. Anyone who could taste sweetness would become a candidate to be the banshee's servant. To everyone's surprise, both Mira and Lottie were among the 7 candidates. Subsequently, under the witch's arrangement, several girls washed away their filth with spring water and then went to the temple on the back mountain, each holding a leaf in their mouth. As the witch played music, the girls began to dance uncontrollably. However, the next second, Mira was horrified to find her soul had arrived in the banshee's domain and was still dancing. Before long, the other 5 girls fell to the ground one after another. They were clearly all rejected by the banshee. In the temple, although only Mira and Lottie were still holding on, they had been dancing from day to night without any sign of stopping. Why haven't they been chosen yet? It's been so long, and this is the first time I've seen such a situation. Now, even the witch was puzzled. Clearly, the banshee had actively requested a sacrifice, so why was she unwilling to accept the chosen ones? It turned out that the banshee had just discovered that although kind-hearted Mira was willing to accept the sacrifice for the villagers, deep down, she didn't want to stay here. Mira still wanted to return to her mother's side. After sensing her thoughts, the banshee decided to make Mira and her new friend dance from morning till night to break her will. But what the banshee didn't expect was that Mira could break through the barrier she set and let her soul return to her body. Unfortunately, the next second, her soul was forcibly dragged back by the banshee. The witch, worried that the two girls would be exhausted to death, decided to cover their heads with fruit cloths, making their souls instantly disappear in front of the banshee. However, this action angered the banshee and her slaves. The banshee immediately sent slaves to bring the girls back. Seeing this, the witch hurriedly carried Mira and Lottie's bodies home and arranged for others to sprinkle salt around to ward off evil. But what no one knew was that during her coma, Mira had returned to the banshee's domain. However, this time she wasn't in the dance hall but in a dark, damp cave. While searching for an exit, she encountered a group of women covered in shrouds like her, and several little girls with only a mouth left on their faces. They tried to surround Mira, wanting her to stay and play with them. At this moment, Mira was so frightened that she kept retreating. As a result, she slipped and fell to the ground. When she got up, she was already surrounded by a group of dancers. The dancers took Mira to an open area. Finally, under the banshee's command, they began to dance around Mira. To make Mira submit, the banshee had already cast a spell to make her mother a dancer and promised that if she agreed to stay, they could reunite. But at this moment, Mira had no intention of making any promises to the banshee. Her heart was only with her mother. However, when she tried to run across to reunite,